This is PC747 with the Next Up YouTube. So today I want to talk about a story that I read on 9 to 5 Google, and I think this is very fitting, especially for someone who is a very big Pixel fan. I've been a fan of the Nexus and Pixel phone for a while, and yeah, this is a kind of a big story, and I think that hopefully this can equate to, for us Pixel fans, finally getting the phone that we've been looking forward to for a while. So let's talk about this. And basically, this was written by, I want to give credit to Avner Lee. This is where I first read it out of, and I kind of was following it. And basically, so we've been seeing the Pixel phones that's been out since the Pixel, and, you know, ever since the first Pixel and the Pixel 2, Pixel 3, it feels like it's been like a downslope where, you know, we thought we would finally get a phone that will be the equivalent of the iPhone for Android. And a lot of people like myself, we've been looking forward to that. You know, ever since the Nexus phones that came out, we really wanted to see a phone come out here by Google that really give us, the fans, what we want. And we were willing to pay more money for it. And when they said, okay, we're going to give you guys a Pixel line, and that was what it's going to be, a lot of Google fans, we was hyped up and excited for it. We couldn't wait to see it. And, you know, when the first Pixel came out, a lot of us, we were willing to kind of give Google a pass on the fact that, okay, we realized that you were just getting it out there. It's the first phone. We understand that as a result, we're not going to really see, you know, what we was really expecting to see out of these phones. And as we started to see kind of the Pixel 2 unfold with the Pixel 2 XL in particular, where you had the issues with the display, we were like, all right, you know, as far as the phone itself, the Pixel 2 XL, I like the phone itself. In fact, outside of the display, I really felt like it was a pretty decent phone for what it was. And then we got the Pixel 3 XL where you had the giant notch, and that's when people like, you know, are you guys really taking this serious? And then the last phone, the Pixel 4 and Pixel 4 XL, was truly met with disappointment. And as a result, you know, we're seeing people who are no longer going to be with the team. In particular, there are two teams, Mark Lavoie and Mario Quiroz, if I said his name properly. So Mark Lavoie, you know, what he is known for in, you know, if you looked at last year's, when they were presenting the Pixel 4, he was actually out there presenting it to everyone. And he was pretty much in charge of, you know, engineering the camera. So a lot of things we've seen right now, the live HDR plus, the portrait mode, night sight, he was part of bringing that to fruition. And the other person, Mario, he actually been around the phone for quite a bit. Not only was he responsible for giving us a lot of the phones that we see as far as Pixels, but you know, this is I'm getting this from the information, which a lot of the links that I'm talking about I will link in my description. But he brought to the table Google TV, Chromecast. He actually was a big part of bringing Stadia to where we see now. Now, that was turned over to someone else, but he was instrumental in that, as well as he had a lot of say-so in the Nexus line of phones. And, you know, he's been with the company for about 14 years. And honestly, when I look at, like, you know, just his overall, what he brought to the table, you know, I felt like really, especially when you look at like a lot of the things that were successful for Google, you know, Chromecast, let's be honest, you know, that has been very, very successful for Google. They also, you know, he was responsible for the Google Home products that we're seeing now. And he, again, instrumental. That is a big part of Google's portfolio right now. And, you know, to see that he have to move on, and for whatever reason, I feel like, you know, he did bring a lot to the table. And man, I really hate to see that shakeup happen where he's no longer with the Pixel group or with Google all together. And it's like, man, I really want to see with this shakeup, something that good come out of it. Because, no one want to see someone get fired. But at the same time, for a lot of us Google fans and Pixel fans, we like, man, something has to be done. It's like people are not getting it. And I don't know who needs to be blamed for this. Now, do I think these two people should be the scapegoat for this? I mean, honestly, I'm not enough in it to say yes or no. Because when you look at what these two guys they did bring something good. When you take the Pixel camera, in fact, I had like a list of things that I felt like the Pixel phones did right and things that I felt was wrong. Well, one of the things I think Pixel did right, or the Pixel team did do right, was the camera. And if Mark Lavoie was responsible for that, you gotta give him credit, because when it comes to the Pixel phones, that was its strongest, feat. When you looked at where we came from the Nexus line of products, and one of the things that people have said that, man, this phone is good, but we really wish it had a good camera. And, well, when you look at the Pixel phones have been at the top when it comes to cameras. So much so that we saw other companies, particularly Apple and Samsung, feel like they had to step up with their camera quality because of how high of a mark that Google have set with their cameras. In fact, I think I talked about in my last video that, these cameras have come so far that for a lot of people, you can get away with just using your camera or your smartphone camera versus going out there and buying a high-end camera for a lot of the things that you're doing. So kudos there. And he deserves some praise and marks there. And as far as, Mario, and you look at all the things that were brought forward, I mean, look at Chromecast and how that evolved. I mean, really, think about how far the Chromecast has evolved. And now our lives are basically revolved around casting things to our TV. It really changed the idea of the fact that where smart TVs are and the whole smart TV landscape all together. And so these guys brought a lot to the table. And like I said, it sucks to see these guys, no longer be with the team, because I really feel like they did bring something that really helped strengthen the portfolio and worth, giving them kudos for. But let's be honest, there have been some disappointments with the Pixel phones, in particular the fact that it always felt like it was a step behind when you look at the phones that were on the market. Again, when we look at Pixel, we expect this to be the equivalent of Android version of iPhone. We want the best Android phone on the market because it's made by Google, the people who make the software. And when you look at the last couple of Pixels, it's like all you had to do was just give us the hardware that was equivalent what was out there in the market that year. And you would have pretty much the best phone of that year. When you look at like some of the phones that was considered the best phones of the year for the past couple of years, one in particular with OnePlus, all OnePlus did was give us some hardware that was on par with that of, Samsung phones out there. And they did it at a pretty decent price. And that, brought me to thinking, look, if OnePlus is able to do that, Google should be able to have done that. And that was like, why can't you guys give us a phone that, when it comes to hardware, was on par with that of some of the phones out there? I'm not saying it had to be the top of the line as far as specs, but it needs to be in the conversation. And that was the thing. It felt like it wasn't in the conversation. It felt like it was like 6 months behind when you look at the phones that it was competing against when it released. And man, if they was able to give us that, I felt like, more people would be flocking to this phone. But, particularly the Pixel 4 last year, people scratched their head like, where's the battery life? Again, you look at the Sony camera and the radar and all the other stuff, and yes, it's a good gimmick, but, it's not where people like, I'm going and buying this phone over the competition because of that. And people showed. And I'm glad that people finally stepped up and not bought the phone and forced Google's hand to have to make changes. Now, I'm not sure if they made the right changes with those particular people, but at least some changes are being made. Now, I hope that equates to us finally getting a phone that is a phone that us Pixel fans have been wanting. A flagship Pixel that can compete with the iPhone. Well, part of me kind of is concerned because we're seeing rumors that the next Pixel 5 is going to be more, as far as specs, going to be more mid-tier. And I'm wondering if Google's going to bow out of the flagship market and say, you know what, we're done. We're not looking to compete with that. We're going to kind of just focus more like the next line of products where we're not going to try to put out the best hardware. Where instead we're just going to give a phone that can be on par with that and at least be in the conversation, and we're going to drop back the price, basically rekindle, that whole Nexus line of products, that whole Nexus feel where fans are like, okay, I'm willing to buy it because as far as price, I'm getting a discount versus the competition. The only problem with that is OnePlus have done such a good job of that it's like, oh man, can you really get away with that? And then one argument would say, well, if you look at the OnePlus now, they're starting to get up there in price. So maybe there is room for Google to look at slotting themselves there. I don't want that. I really do want a flagship phone from Google. I really want them to give us a flagship Pixel. And that's kind of what I've been really hoping for. The things they did do right, night sight, the camera. There are so many things they did bring to the table that is worth noting and worth giving credit to those guys for. And also another thing, I like the fact that they opened up, beta software for the average person to pick up and play around with. I'm currently running a beta on my Pixel 3 XL. So those are some things. Monthly update and patches. They continue to do a good job with that. So I love that as well. So they have done some good things with the Pixel, and they continue to make the Pixel as far as overall software feel like it's fluid. I feel like, when it comes to other software on other phones, when you rock a Pixel, it just works. And that's the thing that you got to continue to give Google credit for. So they do have a foundation to build upon, and I can see them going forward, to really reaching the peak that we want to see. It's just getting the hardware where it needs to be. We want to see Pixel phones lead in the hardware department as well. I want to see more innovation out of the Pixel because it can happen. It should happen. This is the company that, when you think about it, is bringing Google to Android to the forefront. And I want to see them not only leading software, but start leading in hardware as well. And they can do that. And when they start doing that, I think you're going to see more people being willing to flock to them, and, you'll start seeing more Pixels fly off the shelves. But if they continue to give the effort they've been giving the past couple of years, where it's like, when you look at the RAM and you look at the battery size and you're like, man, this is the best that you can give me at this price, when you got OnePlus over here and Samsung that are giving me more, I'm not sure if I can, recommend anyone buy that. I'm not willing to buy that. And that's basically been what the market has been saying. They have not been willing to buy that. Anyway, that's all I got with this. I want to hear your thoughts on Google and the Pixel. What do you think they need to do? I'm out.